Hi there, Seth. How are you doing today?
Not bad. Pleasure to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. So I thought we would just jump on the call and basically, make a case study to basically share your journey and some of the success that you've had. Basically, just to kind of get us started, do you want to, just briefly introduce yourself, tell us about your business and kind of what you do?
Great. So my name is Seth Leamon, and I'm a partner in a boutique firm, and we provide mainly tax-based services, as well as we have a department that does some accounting and bookkeeping to service those services that we provide. Our specialty is with representing people in front of the IRS, as well as state authorities when they're in trouble. So we try to keep them out of prison, and we try to keep their assets wherever they belong, bank accounts or, you know, retirement accounts and those kinds of things.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, thanks. So let's just get let's go back, a little bit and paint the picture of how we started, back to, before we actually started working together. Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on before we actually engaged and started working together?
So let's see. Well, COVID hit, and that's been kind of crazy this year. We've been in an expansion phase, and we've been hiring more staff and taking on new kinds of cases. Um, and before, we haven't really had a lot of success with marketing, but actually your firm has helped with that substantially. We're kind of in our midway in our journey, still finding the silver bullet kind of thing, but honestly, way more success so far with your firm than anything we've tried previously. I think it's the hands-on piece. So sometimes we would get hung up on something, and maybe some piece, even though it was similar, wouldn't quite work, and couldn't get, any of the firms that we engaged to just take us the last, like click that button, the hands-on, like, oh, that's why it's not working, the troubleshooting kind of hands-on. So that has been very, very helpful, I think, yeah, for us.
Yeah, yeah. I remember from just before, you told me you'd basically we did something a little bit similar what you're originally doing. We did something similar. We just kind of tweaked it slightly. But you were doing it for about 10 months before, and you were paying like I think like 2 grand a month, and you didn't really get kind of the
Mhm.
result you were looking for there. Um,
Really, yeah, we got almost nothing out of the whole kind of experiment. Learned a lot about kind of general marketing principles, and you know, so we got an people are doing marketing in the accounting and tax service kind of industry. So I think at this point we've kind of been introduced to most of the strategies that I think people are using, or at least kind of heard of them, whether or not we've actually tried them. But we didn't find any of the ones, at least the way that it was happening, to be working. And yeah, this last year we spent a lot of money on marketing. It's unfortunate in a way. I wish we had spent all of that money, with you, because if we had, or even part of it, if I had taken a marketing budget and said, okay, now Solomon, and company gets $50,000 to work with, I don't know, where would we be now? Maybe we'd be in a different space if we'd been able to. But instead, we've been doing it on a lower budget, which is not bad. Our percentage success is working pretty well, at least we found one little niche that works, and it's inexpensive, and it consistently gives us something of value, which is good. Now we're trying to figure out what the next step is, right? Can we kind of continue that, but then add to it, and find something else that works similarly well or even better.
mm,
And
mm.
so anyway,
Just kind of adding more
right.
process, making it better, streamlining it. Yeah, 100%.
Well, yeah, absolutely, making it better, more streamlined, but even maybe adding to it or finding new kind of methods or
Mm.
whatever as well. So
Definitely, yeah.
yeah.
New new lead generation strategies and whatnot. So yeah, so we get a kind of a good picture of where we were before we engage, and let's dive into like what we've done so far. The first thing that we did together was we had our accelerator call, which is like our kickoff call or our initiation call. Do you kind of recall what we spoke about there?
No, not really.
That's quite a while ago. Do you remember some of the things that we basically worked on? Like, what's changed considering now compared to then before?
Well, I remember that right at the beginning, we were talking about the target market, and kind of your firm was trying to figure out, how does that work for tax resolution, and how do you target those individuals, and who is and we kind of know who they are, the demographics. But even till today, it's a little bit hard to figure out how we're going to get that specific person directly, right? Unless they're already reaching out. But how do you market directly to that one? And that's kind of an interesting, thing. And maybe we'll be able to, if people know that, they're not sharing it.
Yeah, well,
I would
that's
say
what we're
that.
working on now together, I guess.
Even the firms, even the larger firms, they're not,
Mm.
yeah, they're not, they're not apparently sharing that. It's definitely not coming up in any of our groups. But, I mean, the one kind of method that we found that's working, we're not really sharing in those groups either. So, I mean, hey,
Yeah, yeah,
fair is fair, right?
there is definitely fair there. Yeah, what would you say? What do you think has kind of changed or kind of switched for you, and now you've kind of seen like, whoa, this is something we can double down on.
um, well, I mean, it's smooth. It's working very well. The one kind of referral based, it's smooth. It's kind of every day. Um, you know, at some point here, I'm going to have one of the staff members or hire someone else just to do that, as I'm trying to do other things as well. And, that kind of gets in the way. I don't even have to think about it, I just kind of get on and do that. But sometimes if we get lots of responses, then I'm like, wow, I've been doing this for 2, 3 hours, I got other stuff to do, So, but it's consistent, and it just keeps on chugging away, and we keep getting, conversations, and, you know
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I mean, it definitely works. As far as how to increase it, I mean, we've talked about adding on another account,
mm,
another LinkedIn account, doing it that way, or two, because we could conceivably add another one or two, with staff members.
definitely.
So, that's possible, if we felt like we could handle that, if we wanted. It's a little time intensive on the backside because it's a non-direct, it's a very collegial meeting that works well in general, but it's not direct. And so, it's like you're selling something different than the end service, which is fine.
Yeah,
And it may have more value in the long run, but when you have 5 of those in a day, then that really, takes up a lot of your day, right?
it's true.
Not that at the moment we're not having 5. It's less. We're seeing a dip in the season, I think. But then again, all financial services kind of dip during this. People are not as focused. They're off doing their thing, thinking about family, and I don't know. It all kind of slows down a little bit. That's
Mm,
just the way it is. So
yeah, I suppose
anyway,
we have
sorry.
time to
That's a
work
little bit like a
on other
squirrel moment. We
things
went off somewhere.
now.
What was the original question?
So yeah, what kind of like where are you now basically? What's changed considering there to now? Now before you know getting so many clients and now you're getting so many more clients, right?
Okay. We've definitely switched away from Google. We were sort of in process when, with Google,
Mm,
and turned out it just got worse and worse. We had a 5 months, marriage with Google, and it started out, of course, at a loss, which is what you expect because you have to, kind of dial it in. And then by the second month, it was getting better and making a profit. Third month, it was the highest month and doing well. Fourth month was a loss. Fifth month was an even worse loss. And but
mm,
we were finding that was when we went back and looked at the data, even though the first 3 months were in numbers going up, the cost per lead were also going up,
mm. How does that
because
compare?
Google also. I'm sorry.
How does that compare to like what we're doing essentially?
So Google's cost per lead, and the quality of the leads went down as well. That's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, so when you're paying more and more per lead and then the quality goes down, and it's not really Google's fault maybe on the quality of the lead side necessarily. I mean, it may be, but it's just that, yeah, it got really, really expensive. So that it was, by the end, I was spending, like 1,000 something per lead, and I was just like, this is not sustainable. If that was 1,000 something per client that was actually bringing in a full case that was, then great. I mean, that's fine. If it's a $10,000 case and we're paying 1,000 for it, okay. But they weren't. Most of those cases were in the low end, maybe $1,000 case or whatever. And so we got heavily into a loss, in those last couple of months. So, looking back, I should have cut off that campaign the first month we had that full loss and we had the data back and it looked really clear to me. But we had a meeting, my partner and I, and she was like, well, we should give them the benefit of the doubt and, kind of, give that firm another chance and whatever. So, so we did. And that was a mistake. That was, that last month was costly. I think, I don't know. I don't remember what our loss was, 30 grand or whatever it was. It was like, oh my goodness. It was a real bath, just totally.
So how does that kind of compare to what we've been doing in terms of success and costs and everything?
So cost per lead is way lower with a LinkedIn based strategy, and of course our email strategy, which is almost free. Cost per lead is super low. I mean, we're talking, I don't know. I mean, I can go back and look at it, but it's dollars per lead kind of thing. So the costs involved with running the LinkedIn campaigns are literally taken up in just our overhead costs for running our business. I mean, it is not. I can do it all day long, every day for the rest of our life, and it's just not a problem.
Yeah.
The Facebook actually seemed to have worked. That was something when so our Facebook campaign, that I'm just sharing our perspective, appeared to work. We ended up getting it looks like we're getting at least two now, or two or three cases out of that Facebook campaign. We spent $500 on that campaign, I think.
About $500.
Yeah, and that's and then getting 3 cases out of it. That's actually pretty good. It turns out it's looking like they're not giant cases, but one of them's turning into kind of a reasonable case. It's not a super high. I think the other 2 are kind of low, ish, maybe. You never know for sure, but one of them's turning into, the gentleman that we got from one of them. I think it ends up that he owes quite a bit. He owes, I don't know, 300,000-400,000. So as a not wealthy person, that's kind of a problem. So, and he was doing something he didn't really understand that he was doing. He had a bunch of friends that were taxi drivers and he was a taxi driver, and he was letting them all swipe their cards through his card reader to pay for stuff. And so when it came to income, and so none of them paid income taxes, and he didn't think about paying income tax. And then suddenly the IRS noticed that he had all this money. I mean, we're talking, if you're owing in the many hundreds of thousands, he had a lot of money going through there. It was it was $1 million or plus or whatever. So the point was, all those other people are getting off without having to pay the taxes. But so his case ends up it's going to take a little bit longer just because of his situation. So it's kind of a two-sided thing. On the one side, he doesn't have a lot of money, but on the other side, so sometimes that helps cases.
Yeah.
But on the other side, he should have known. Like, it's not like he didn't. Sometimes they don't have money and they don't have to pay or don't deserve to pay. yeah, he kind of deserves to pay. So, you know, the IRS is of two minds on this, you know, so convincing them to do that. So anyway, that strategy, yeah, so that case, yeah, it's turning into a reasonable case. It's not a giant case. It's not a, you know, a $70,000 case or anything like that, but it's turning into a reasonable case.
Mm.
So
Yeah, the return on
I
that was
think
very high.
the return on that campaign ended up being pretty good. You know, putting $500 in to get 3 cases, even if the other 2 are probably on the smaller side, um, definitely pretty good. You know, it's definitely worth it. I would say that it took a little bit to know that that was really going to be the way it was, and there was a lot of kind of junk in that people didn't, the tax preparers didn't really understand, and it captured some tax preparers that literally were working for someone else and they thought it was a job or something.
Mm.
And so when I called them, there was a lot of junk calls, so I had to call, you know, I call through all those calls. But the meetings, a reasonable number of them were okay, and then the people who really ended up being of value were the people that had a business and they were tax preparers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the fact that they were just that they had the PTIN, you know, that, and the, you know, being able to do it. It was the fact that they were a business owner, that was, they owned a tax business. So what I learned out of that was, if we could figure out how to target, if we could take the 2 lists, because we have the one list that's everybody in the US that's a tax preparer, and if we could then cross that with some sort of business list, there was a way of doing that, of filtering it for the fact that they had a business, you know, a tax business, then it would be golden, because those people really are they are a target, and it works. It's very symbiotic.
100%.
So, I mean, and we could probably run that, and even that ad, we probably should run again. Cause I mean, if we make money on it and it's a reasonable
Yeah.
thing, we might as well, you
And
know.
if you were honest, if you were honest with me before we ran the ad, how did you feel about it? Looking at the ad and everything, it looked
Oh, the ad, I was like, well, okay, he says it's good. I don't know about that. I mean, you know, but
yeah.
hey, it got people to sign up, and it got, you know, it got those calls, and
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah, I don't
just
know.
$500 budget is very,
Yeah,
it's very, very low budget.
very low. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do
So
you think about the? What do you think about the, like, the video presentation that I made? Just, you know, that one day. Did you see the one that was the need based one? Like, hey, you know, here are the 3 problems and how it would solve your problems or whatever.
I think I did
With a
see
little
that. Yeah, I
cartoon.
mean, ultimately, when it comes to anything like that, it's testing. It's like I
Right.
can tell you, you know, okay, this is sort of going to work because it makes sense, and I can see how people
Right.
misread
Right.
it. But I mean,
But then
ultimately,
who
you need
knows?
feedback from the market. Yeah,
Right.
that's always going to
I
be.
was wondering if maybe like, almost like a, you know, that recapture loop that Facebook lets you do. So if someone's clicked on your, you know, it
Like
re-advertises to them.
retargeting.
Yeah, retargeting, but using maybe something like that as the second kind of step. I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
we could do a lot of things because you have your Google site as well, so we could retarget everybody from Google. It's a lot of ways to retarget. Yeah.
I
Mm.
don't know. I'm not sure, but that may be something, you know,
So
to
we've done,
consider.
we've done quite a few strategies. So we've done, you know, LinkedIn, we've done email, we did Facebook, and I
Mhm.
mean, what would you say compared to everything else that you've done? What would you say like results? If everything else on a scale of 1 to 10 was, say, you know, they were, I don't know, what was all your efforts before scale of 1 to 10? How satisfied were we with them?
Oh, I definitely very satisfied. I think the
Now,
strategies we've
n-
done
now,
now,
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And I think the strategies that we have done now, you know, we're not at the end, but they're definitely more sustainable and workable. They lead to real results, so that's good.
yeah. What do you think was
Pretty soundbite.
the thing that made you jump in with us? You know, the thing that made you take a chance.
Um, hmm. Well, you did a good job on the behavioral side. I was very interested. I enjoyed your presentation when you were talking about the behavioral side. Maybe that's just because I'm interested in behavior, and of course, you know, it helps to be articulate and that kind of thing. Also, your fee structure was more reasonable. some of the firms that we've dealt with. So at this point, we've dealt with, I don't know, are we on our 5th firm or something like that?
Wow. Jeez, I only know
So we engaged the firm for Google, and that was their focus, Google. We talked to them about doing Facebook, but they couldn't really figure out how to do Facebook well. They were willing to do it. They also had a strategy around Instagram and something, but I wasn't convinced. And no, there had been no testing, and they were like, "Yeah, we think it'll work." And yeah, so and then we had the firm that we had a firm that we engaged for 2 years. Was it 2 years? And then we separated with them a few months ago after we started with you. They were a little bit multifaceted in that part of their focus was around remaking your firm so that your firm is profitable, not just the marketing. So they did marketing, but they also did kind of like firm processes and their focus, though, was so heavily on accounting firms that when we decided to put more of our efforts into tax resolution, we found that progressively they were a worse and worse fit. You know, just, yeah. They have a good structure, and they're very aggressive, and they have a good group that they put you in, and that's probably one of the, yeah, I mean, and they have good coaches that, you know, and they're a big firm, and they, you know, they do a good job with many of their pieces, and they have lots of like training materials and, you know, but in the end, yeah, they, you know, we felt like the value we were getting out of being with your firm was probably twice as much at half the price. So well, you know, why would we, you know, and in the end, we felt like we had kind of outgrown what they were, because they kind of consistently couldn't help us with our ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like a one size fits all. Yes, we're going to help you become this, you know. And I remember I had an argument with one of their, you know, people. I was like, look, we want X, you know, you're selling me A and B. I don't want A and B. Solve my problem X. And then they're like, no, that's not smart. You need to do A and B. Okay. So who's paying you? I mean, you know, but part of their thing was that wasn't how they were set up. And
Yeah.
since they were, you know, since they were set up in a way to really focus on accounting firms, and we did actually redo our whole pricing strategy with them. And we had previously redone our earlier, like 2 years ago, we had redone our staffing. And so, I mean, our firm has changed a lot over the last 2 years, 3 years. So, but this year it's changed even more. It's been, this year has been quite a ride. It's crazy. So they did add in fractional CFO. So, you know, they were like traditional accounting only. Then they added in fractional CFO. Then they added in tax resolution. But honestly, they weren't good at tax resolution and how to help you do that. They just,
Yeah.
weren't
What
good.
about the accounting side? Did they get you any accounting?
No, they did not. And then they just blamed us and said, well, you didn't do what we told you to do, or, you know, you weren't, yeah. So I was like, nah, I don't buy it. Sorry. So
So what would
it
you?
was like they had good,
Yeah.
they had good tools. So like, you know, WeConnect, you know, that was one of their, you know, things like, hey, use WeConnect, right?
Yeah. It's good.
Before that, we had tried Linked Helper. And before that, we had used another tool. And WeConnect is definitely the best out of the three. And we also tried just straight up LinkedIn, like, well, let's spend all day talking to people. Wow, that is really labor intensive.
Yeah.
So we tried that, and WeConnect is definitely better. I don't know, you know, I'm sure there's another, you had mentioned there was another tool that you guys have used, and, you know, I don't mind using a different tool, but WeConnect at least is consistent, and they have a server. So if, you know, when we're moving around and we have multiple, you know, locations and And especially on my ranch when I don't always have good internet, yeah, having the server run stuff is way better. Um,
Yeah.
so that's a nice thing for us. It's let's see. So then yeah, they added the fractional CFO kind of stuff. We haven't really gotten into that just because we weren't really wanting to kind of increase that or our accounting. In the last year and a half, probably, we kind of stopped focusing on any of those things. Having said that, we just added a fractional CFO client just yesterday. So, it
Some,
was
some wins.
right. I mean, and it just kind of fell into our laps. And I was like, well, how do we not, I used to work with these people, previously as an administrator. And then they kind of went through some organizational changes, and then they called me up and said, hey, we desperately need your help. Can we hire your firm for fractional CFO, services? And so I met with them, and, I thought, well, $5,000 a month, we can handle that. It's,
Some high ticket offers. So
what's
what I
that?
want to, yeah, it's a high ticket offer.
Yeah, and it's very reasonable. We have to watch, they're a nonprofit, so we have to watch scope creep is the thing. And so
Okay.
that's why we tend to avoid those. But, yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It could be, whatever. So.
Okay. What I wanted to ask you next is what would you basically say to someone, that's thinking about working with us, or, thinking about working with myself, or the whole Accounting Clients Accelerator team? What would you say to them?
So I would have to say that I appreciate working with this firm. I continue appreciating, so that's good. It's not just the first call and first interaction, like, oh, this is great. It's nice to have personality and personability, but also getting things done and finding solutions and being creative and being willing to try new things. That's nice. Everybody says that they're creative and willing to try new things, but yeah, I've found so far it to be, very reasonable and fun. So that's a good thing.
Okay. Okay. Who do you think that, our program, who do you think would be a good fit? What would they be like?
Let's see, a good fit for your program. Well, that's a good question. So definitely taking someone from zero. It's very obvious that you can do that. So anybody that's at zero, who's never gone through anything, obviously you're a good fit. And I would say it's obvious that the accounting space well, so it's possible that that would be a good fit. Learning tax resolution is a new thing for you, and it is for everybody. I'm not even convinced that the industry is really developed. I don't know. I feel like, especially with some of the, it's like the Wild West, and with some of the changes, they keep on making legal changes because it's a specialty, and it involves finance, and it doesn't really, but it keeps on getting hit by some of those. So over the last 20 years, the regulatory environment has continued to change when it comes to this specialty. And the marketing environment continues to change. And it's changing, and it changes more. Like just over the last year, it has changed more than any of the other pieces. So, accounting, marketing hasn't really changed much. The, maybe fractional CFO marketing hasn't really changed, or, tax planning or tax preparation, haven't really changed much. But I mean, aside from COVID, but tax resolution has already changed like 3 times. So it makes it a little bit dangerous in a way. And we definitely found that when we were interfacing with Google, as they were responding to other changes in the regulatory environment, and then totally changing how it works with Google. So I would definitely say that, yeah, a zero person, but also even a person that or a group that has already done marketing. As long as they're still seeking for success, I think the interest in being flexible and finding, discovering, I think is good. I think that's very good. and attention to detail. Also, not skimping on, if we need you for something, I try to leave you alone, and yet, when I'm talking to you or have interesting things that are on my mind, you're very responsive, and that goes a long ways. Goes a long ways. I don't feel like I need to talk to you every week necessarily, but if things are rolling, but if we're wanting to try new things or set things up, or, it's good.
Of course, yeah. And finally, let's see. Last question: why should someone that's basically listening to this? Why should they take action? Why shouldn't they just sit on the fence or just wait?
I think it's worthwhile trying this firm. I'm not getting paid to say that, so that's a good thing. I think it's definitely worth trying this firm. I'm not willing to say that anybody is a fit for everybody, but so far we're enjoying this firm, and I hope that we're in a position after a year or 2 or 3 or 10 to be able to say, absolutely, we've been with this firm this whole time. That's what success looks like to me. Long-term engagement with a firm, no matter what their service is that they're providing, because that means that you're being successful. That relationship is being successful. So I would like to be with this firm for 10 years. Great, put us on your account and chug away. And if you can do that from an island somewhere, or enjoy, and whatever we're doing is working, then this is good. So
100%. Yeah. Cool. Thanks so much for sharing, Seth. Really appreciate you sharing a bit of your journey with us together.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, anyways, that's all. I'll chat to you very soon. Cheers.
Okay, very good. And then